Greetings. This is Accounting 301, Chapter 18 questions. Question 1.
What are the 5-step processes of recognizing revenues?
The 5 steps of recognizing revenue are: Step 1 is to identify the contract with the customer. This usually consists of a written agreement with specific place and parties. Step 2 is to identify the performance obligations in the contract. Franchisors must determine if the service provides to the franchisee at the onset of the franchise agreement can be identified as distinct from the intellectual property that the franchisee is licensing. Step 3 is to determine the transaction price. For franchisors, this step involves listing all the revenue streams, including ones that are received now and ones received over time. Step 4 is to allocate the prices to the performance obligations. Franchisors must take each distinct good or service determined in Step 2 and assign a transaction price at the inception of the agreement. Step 5 is to recognize revenue. Recognize revenue for a particular good or service. Question 2.
What is a performance obligation, and when does a company satisfy its performance obligation?
A performance obligation is a promise to provide a distinct good or service to a customer. This is the unit of account for applying the new satisfied when control of the good or service has been transferred to the customer. Question 3.
What is transaction price?
Transaction price is the amount of consideration an entity expects to receive for the transfer of goods or services to the customer. The amount can be fixed, variable, or a combination of both. It is allocated to the identified performance obligations in the contract. Question 4.
If more than one performance obligation exists, how do we allocate the transaction?
If there are more than one performance obligations, you allocate the transaction price by allocating the transaction price to each separate performance obligation in the amount that depicts the amount of consideration to which the entity expects to be entitled in exchange for satisfying each separate performance obligation.
Any last words?
Have a good day.